Hi everyone. Today we are going to learn the unit 4, which are Renaissance artists, painters as well as sculptors. As we've learned earlier, Renaissance means new birth, rebirth, or this was the phase where the artists came up with complete new laws and techniques and methodologies to do their artwork. We start with the early and high Renaissance. The first artist we are going through here is Giotto, and the first painting is Lamentation. If you see in this painting, the entire background has complete blue effect, but the most striking thing is this diagonally placed rock that leads your eye or attention to the face of the Christ, who has just been alighted the cross and been laid down in the lap of his mother, Mary. All the followers and apostles that are in and around are looking down at the Christ, the agony and the pain that he is going through. If you see in this painting, there is no stark sense of space or perspective. Each of the figures are just positioned and placed next to each other, which is called juxtaposed. These are sculptures by Donatello. Donatello is famous for this sculpture, which is called Habukuk or Zakun. Basically, Zakun is also known as pumpkin head because here he represented the king or the god as bald without hair. This had never happened before Renaissance. Always, any time where the king or god was represented, they were represented in their complete youthfulness and never in a state where they could be bald or with wrinkles or either ways. Hence, this sculpture became very famous. The next is an example of an equestrian horse. Equestrian horse is where the horse will always be in its complete attire with the saddle, and the rider will be showing the horse in a galloping position. So this kind of a representation called the equestrian representation was very famous after that, and many sculptures followed this kind of a style. This is Botticelli, and he has represented the birth of Venus over here. In the center, as you can see, where a full-blown Venus is given birth, where she erupts out of a shell, and where here you see one is rushing towards her with a shawl, and then you can see another two figures that are coming towards Venus. But here also the background is quite dramatic, and each of the figures, if you can see, are just like juxtapositioned next to each other. The color combinations here are also very earthly, but the whole thing has a harmonious balance. Next example of Botticelli is this painting Primavera, which is also called as springtime. Here he has just shown the celebration of spring, how the entire community is so happy celebrating the spring. You can see the flowers and the fruits in the tree, you can see the cupids flying, and Venus in the center, and all of them are engaged in celebration. Now, this is a painting by Raphael, which is called Betrothal of the Virgin. Here in the center, you can see the Virgin being given to Joseph, Saint Joseph, and here is where there was first kind of representation of true sense of perspective. If you see, you can feel the space between the building that is there far ahead, or the chapel that is there far ahead, and the group of people that are there ahead of it. And the way they have shown the steps or drafted the steps over here shows that reclining line or angle of perspective that leads into this window that is there in the building. And you could also see a sense of three dimension in this building. You can feel that the building is circular. Again, the color combination here was pretty earthy, and the whole thing has an harmonious balance. This painting by Raphael is one of my favorite as well. Here is where he's shown the School of Athens. As I have told you in the class when we were discussing about Michelangelo and Leonardo, the importance of these schools. These were basically called the schools of philosophies, where worldwide philosophers came down over here to exchange their ideas, their views about their philosophies, about their findings, about their discoveries. And here you can see all of them under one roof. And in fact, the figure that is being painted over here is Michelangelo. This is Pythagoras. You can also see Archimedes, Leonardo, Da Vinci, and all the major philosophers that were there during this era have all been brought under this painting. But here the dramatical effect is the stage-like appearance that is created because of this arch, the front entrance arch, and then the perspective space that is formed behind this, where you can see all these figures are comfortably standing. Again, the higher steps also give a lot of sense of space inside the painting. And here, when you see the background through the interior space that is here, you can see sky behind. So that shows that the typical representation of a Renaissance fair, where you see the life beyond what is existing inside over here. But the two main characters are Plato and Aristotle. Now, if I can zoom and show over here, in the center, you can see the hand of Plato is actually showing towards the skies. Is showing towards the skies, and that represents that all that is happening in the worldly is only a temporary phase, and everything that has to complete has to go towards the God or the ultimate creator is there in the skies. Whereas Aristotle, if you can see his hand movement, will be showing down on the earth. Now that is representing that this is the truth. What is happening here is the moment, and this is how life is. Baroque art, and the sculpture here is about Ecstasy of Saint Teresa, done by Lorenzo Bernini. Here you can see it's a marble statue which is 11 feet 6 inches in height, and this is about the swooning of a nun. You can see the nun here on a floating cloud, where the angel is here standing on top of her. You can also see the spear here in the angel's hand, and she's actually piercing through the heart of the nun. This is the episode where the nun is able to feel the love for the god because of the pain that she's going through the stabbing. Here, Bernini has done a dramatic effect by these golden stucco rays that are there that seem to be coming down from the heaven. And Baroque art is where the art reached a stage where everything was overly decorated. Northern Renaissance. In the Northern Renaissance, the first artist here is from Flanders, or a Flemish artist who's called Jan van Eyck. And the example is the Ghent altarpiece. The Ghent altarpiece was very dramatically split into several panels. You can see this entire painting has different panels, and the panels are also of different sizes. Some are large rectangles, some are small rectangles, some are arched, and then the corner panels that are here. And the way he has split this is he represents the entire creation and the world over here. You can see the center is God the Creator, and then you have Adam and Eve at the two extreme ends. And this is the community, the good shepherds that are shown below. These are the musicians playing the harp, and then the activities that are happening in down in the earth, and the activities that happen in the sky. Here you see the Mother Mary and Joseph next to the God the Creator. This painting is by Jan van Eyck, and here he has done Arnolfini and his bride. This is actually a very interesting painting. Here what you can see is this couple that are here standing in their marriage, and you can see that the lady or the bride over here is already on her family way. The dog that you see below, which is standing right next to them, is what symbolizes loyalty between a husband and wife. And you can also see a half-bitten apple over here. This apple is symbolizing the first sin that was committed by the humans. But here what is interesting is if you could see the mirror on the wall in the far end, the entire reflection of this room is there in that mirror. And down far there you can actually see Jan van Eyck himself, who is the witness of this event, witness of this wedding, as well as creating a proof of him having captured this moment into the form of this painting. But the talent of the artist is you can see here in this chandelier, where there is complete play of light and the shimmering gold that you can feel the brass on the chandelier. This is another artist called Peter Bruegel from Flanders. And this was a painting that created a lot of changes in the field of art. As you can see here, that the concept is not a personality. It's not one single object. It's a scenery. It's a scenery, and in fact, it is the painters who are hunting in the snow. If you can see, it's a complete landscape that is being shown. And you can see the hunting dogs over here and the hunters who are going down, which is a day-to-day activity of any person hunting. And this was the difference that created in conceptual difference that was created during Renaissance. Here is another one by Peter Bruegel where he showed a wedding dance. For a change, it was not a assembled group that was always being depicted and painted, where everything was planned, every figure was planned, every figure had a role to play or an emotion to play within the painting. But here, it's just the entire community that is involved in a activity like dance, where everybody is completely flowing with the rhythm of the music. And you can feel that when you see this painting, and the stark color combinations that are there, he matched it with different color combinations and gave a very colorful effect to this entire painting. This is an artist from Germany, and his was called Albrecht Dürer. Dürer is actually famous for most of his portraits, and he is also famous for portraying himself in the form of Christ. These two examples these are called woodcuts. Now, woodcuts is where you chip the portion of the wood, create in an artwork, and create different prints out of it, which has been explained to you all in detail. Now, this is Night and Death and the Devil, where you can see the horsemen, the four horsemen in between the war. But the classic piece of Dürer is this painting, which is called The Great Piece of Turf. Here, actually, if you can see, he's just drawn a small piece of turf from the garden. And for a change, he has drawn this from a worm's point of view. During perspective, we have taught you the bird's eye view, the eye level view, as well as the worm's eye view. So here, tiny ant or a worm in the ground, how he would be looking up at the grass that is above his head is a small, simple concept which is being very beautifully represented in this painting. These are artists from Holland, and this is Rembrandt. Rembrandt was famous for a very dramatic effect in his painting with the lighting that he plays. So, in all his paintings, the light was the important factor that illuminated the faces and brought the emotions. Here, if you can see in this painting, it is called Anatomy Lesson of Dr. Till. This is where the doctor is actually doing a dissection and explaining about the physiology of the human hand to the others around it. You can see every single face has a very perfect and a peculiar expression. And it's like an artificial spotlight which is there on the main focus of the object, and the reflection of the light in all these faces is what illuminates the entire painting. This by Rembrandt is called the Night Watch. Again, typical of Rembrandt, where the entire painting is dark and there is a very dramatic spotlight on the captain that is there in the center. And this is a phase where the captain is just giving out some instructions to his subordinates just before they go to the war, which is called the Night Watch. This artist, Delacroix, is known for doing paintings that were very, very disturbing, and these come into the face of romanticism, and he showed the crudeness, the cruelty, and the agony and pain that the people went through in all his paintings. This one is called Dante and Virgil in Hell. The next painting of Delacroix is Massacre at Chios. He always showed some disaster, some aftermath of the war, and some crying effect, and the hardcore pain that the community went through was shown through his paintings. This is an artist from England called Turner, and Turner, for a change, did a lot of seascapes and skyscapes. Under seascapes, he especially did these ships or the warships that came back after the war in a tormented situation. Here in this painting, you can see he has done the fighting Temeraire. This is the Temeraire that has got damaged during a war, which was burned down during a war, and which is coming down for its rest to the shore. And he has very dramatically shown the sky and the sea. The expanse of the sea and the sky, and the gradations of the color that he is given in and around the sun is what creates the interest in his paintings. This example of Turner is again called Rain, Steam and Speed. And if you know, those are the days where the steam engine was just discovered, and he was very fascinated by the steam engines. That's how the ships and these trains. And here you can see the steam coming out of this tracks and a very hazy atmosphere given for his entire painting. Well, thank you. This was the artist from the Renaissance phase, apart from Michelangelo and Leonardo, that we have dealt with already in great detail.